Okay.
Okay, I remember when they took us down off of the mountain, and I'm taking this from the script from this valley, and page 10, the first paragraph, where it talks about the Carter store. We were taken into the Carter store for first aid treatment. There happened to be a doctor there and his daughter, who was a nurse, and then another lady there that wasn't a nurse, but a good helper. But I remember them discussing my leg, my right leg, quite extensively, that had turned blue, and the doctor was concerned and thought that the leg should be taken off.
Was it the leg or the foot?
The foot.
Because it was frozen, you mean?
Because of being frozen. And he thought that infection would set in if we didn't, as it thawed out. But the two girls, I recall, even in my semi-conscious state, but I do recall the girls stating, "Will you let us do what we can for a while?" Something to that effect. And I recall that I felt real good about that they wanted to do something about it for a while. And I remember them taking these hot white towels that had been soaked in water. And by the way, these were all members of the church. Taking these hot white towels and bringing them over and wrapping them around my feet and just leaving them for a few seconds. And then they would replace another one. I remember they were so hot that as a result of that, my leg peeled in some places later on.
Were the towels steaming?
They were steaming. Oh yeah, that's what I remember about them. And them steaming, but I couldn't feel the heat, so it didn't bother me. But I do know that they were really trying to bring my leg out of it fast, so that the blood would circulate fast. I guess is what they were after, instead of a slow thaw. Well, anyway, the coloring started coming back, and that was discussed, and they felt good about their results. I remember one of the police officers was a member of the church and a high priest, and Dee was there, and they were the two that give me the initial administration of the priesthood. Was Dee and the police officer. The police officer.
What do you mean, administration of the priesthood?
Administered to me.
All right.
Okay. And the police officer anointed it, and Dee sealed it. I recall also them giving me some.
Then Dee did this, and he was yet covered with blood, and wasn't bandaged up or stitched up?
No, Dee had bandages on.
He did?
I remember seeing him in bandages, but he looked a mess.
But it was obvious. I know that he wasn't stitched up at that time then. It had to be a temporary thing, because he insisted that Dr. Hicken, who was clear back and bountiful, be the one that stitched him.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he had a big white bandage and gauze over the side of his face. I also remember them giving me, bringing a cup of postum, good hot postum. They thought it would do me good. But I drank it, and I just drank 2 or 3 swallows of it. And I told him that I was getting sick, and I started throwing up. And I remember in throwing up how it hurt my back. I know that I must have passed out once or twice there when I was sick, because I come to again. But those were very difficult. That was a very difficult time there at the Carter Hospital. But gee, they tried.
Carter home, you mean?
Oh, the Carter home. They tried to make us comfortable there.
Who all was they?
GD, I don't know. I just know it was the Carter home. It was the first home that we were taken into.
This Dr. Reiser was a son-in-law of the Carters. His wife was a Carter.
Well, they related to us? Yeah, let's find out. Barbara had said that all these Carters there at that store are direct. They are direct descendants of Dominicus Carter. How is our mother, Mom, related to Dominicus Carter?
Great granddaughter.
Of Dominicus.
Of Dominicus.
Did Dominicus have multiple wives?
Yes.
And do you know what wife then we would come to?
Tama Durfee was the one we came through, I think.
Do you know how many wives he had?
7? I don't remember.
Then he was one of those early church polygamists.
Mm-hmm. But this Dr. Carter's wife was a Kunzler. Was related. That's how come they were. I mean, was this Dr. Reiser's wife was a Carter? That's how come they were visiting in the Carter store that
Yes.
day. Okay.
Yes.
And they were from Salt Lake. I wouldn't mind talking to Dr. Reiser. I know he was from Salt Lake.
Yeah, that would be nice. It would be nice if Dee could interview him.
Yeah.
There's another insert here I'd like to put in the second paragraph on page 10 from this valley, where they took me by ambulance to the. They've got it correct here. By going over this cement road, I remember that rough road. I felt every bump going to Salt Lake.
That's already recorded in there, isn't it?
Recorded in there.
All right.
Okay. Now I'd like to divert from that and just relate a couple of things back that I think we forgot right up in the airplane, to show you how concerned Mom was about others and not about herself and her condition. I felt that Mom knew that she was going to die.
Was this before? This was after the crash, then?
This was after the crash, and just she and I were in the airplane. Dad was still unconscious, moaning, but unconscious. But I felt that she knew she was going to die because of some of the things.
You felt that at that time?
No. I thought about it later.
All right.
Because of some of the things she said. She would pass out quite often. And then she'd come to, and when she'd come to, she would first think of Dee. Where is Dee? And each time she'd come to, she would say, where is Dee? And I'd tell her again where Dee was, and she'd say, well, let's pray for him. And so we would offer a little prayer for him. And sometimes Mom would offer the prayer, and sometimes I would offer the prayer. But we would offer the prayer. But Mom, she'd say, Bill, I'm worried about Barbara. She's only 16. She's young. I want you to take care of her. And I want Beth to take care of Mark.
That means she...
And she would talk like this up in the plane.
Is that right?
Uh-huh. And we didn't know how that was going to turn out. I just agreed that everything will be all right.
That means she figured that she wouldn't survive and that you would.
And that we would.
Yes.
And so, but she was worried about others. She was worried about me. She was really worried about me and my leg, and she pled with me to try to get back there to them. But
and it actually was you and Joanne that took care of Barbara after.
Yeah, through her high school senior year. Yeah, I could tell you stories about that. That was interesting to have a teenager in our home.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
I'll bet.
Talked about that.
Was she a problem to you?
She had a hard time with peer pressure, and she admits it. She had a difficult time with peer pressure and through her dating years.
What type of difficulties with peer pressure?
Barbara was very popular.
Well, she was a very attractive
girl. Very attractive girl. And the most popular, the best boys, which were LDS boys, wanted to date her. And it was interesting during the senior sneak, what they call the senior sneak. She wanted to go to the senior sneak, and she kept. And I told her, I says, well, I feel that your mom and dad would say no because of the circumstances and because of where you're going.
Do you know where they were
so
going?
I'd have to say no, which was over towards Strawberry Reservoir, out in the desert. And she made the mistake of telling me, Bill, that it's being police chaperoned. And I told her, I says, anytime something is being police chaperoned, then I feel that you shouldn't go. But I told her, I says, the decision is yours. But remember, I don't think you ought to go. She says, well, we're going with a friend, and so on. Anyway, she went. And she told us of the miserable experience that she had going there and getting way out there and then getting lost. Getting lost out there in the trails and the roads, in the sagebrush, and had to stay all night. She and this girlfriend all night out there in the desert, and locked the doors, and how miserable it was, and then got up in the morning and then come back home. And I remember her coming in and her throwing her arms around me and cried and says, Bill, you were right. And anyway, the stories that she got from it, the beer bust and the drinking that went on, and even the sex conduct that she had heard bits and pieces of out there.
Police chaperoned, though.
Police chaperoned.
Yes, yes.
And how she was real glad that she didn't really find her way that night. But she apologized and learned her lesson.
How do you mean that, real glad she didn't find her way that night?
Because of what she had heard later on. She was glad later on.
If she had found her way, she'd have been there with them.
Been there with them and may have been tempted to be involved in some questionable things.
I didn't understand.